I also want to say before we sign off that, again, bringing it back to the Elam ending, this is something, a concept way before it was even called that, back in 2007, that I dreamed about, wanted to see it get off the ground, never knew how long or when it would ever get off the ground. I didn't know that it would take 10 full years before it would ever be implemented for the first time ever at TBT, the basketball tournament. And then a few years later, you started calling their games. But all those years when I could only see and hear these games in my own mind because there was no opportunity to see them in real life, I always wondered what these moments, these Elam ending games and moments would sound like. And even in my best and most optimistic envisionings of what those moments would sound like, it still never sounded quite as good as what you've made it sound like in your calls of these games on TBT. And I appreciate that. And it's something that I talked about in an interview with Jeff Passan in 2018 in an article about different ideas for baseball, some of which I still believe in, others I don't believe in so much. But this is one that I really, truly believe in. And also when I go on podcasts, which usually begin to address the Elam ending for basketball, in many cases, they'll ask me, what would I change about other sports? This is my go-to answer. I really believe that a choose your own adventure playoff system would work in most, if not all, sports and could be implemented fairly soon. Now, in February of 2020, Major League Baseball actually publicly floated this concept of a playoff draft. Essentially, they were also proposing to combine that with an expansion of the playoffs to 7 teams per league. But they were floating this publicly, saying that one team in each league would get a bye, and then the number 2 seed would be able to choose their first round opponent. The number 3 seed would be able to choose their first round opponent from the remaining teams. But just after they floated that in February 2020, obviously within the next month, because of the COVID pandemic, that idea was tabled, and it really hasn't reemerged to wide discussion since then. And in addition to the practical side, one extra advantage from a cool standpoint, and I think this is honestly maybe the most exciting part, is that you could conduct these drafts in a made-for-TV type of special event, and it would add so much intrigue going into a playoffs, because every one of the lower teams is going to have to be picked by someone for their matchup, and that automatically provides bulletin board material and just intrigue going into the matchup. And then every upset that happens, once it happens after the fact for a team that was chosen for that matchup, if they go on to beat the team that chose them, there's lasting intrigue and lasting memory and lasting satisfaction for beating the team that chose you. From a cool standpoint, being able to present it that way in a made-for-TV special and then just add the storylines to it is something that should not be overlooked, and it shouldn't be missed out on.